Up expert talks. Build Up portal shares daily the most relevant events in the field of energy efficiency and renewable energy, but also participates actively in many European events around the year, as EPB Center on Riva Conference, Horizon 2020, Interreg, and Cost Action events, Covenant of Mayors, and much more, with the aim of further disseminating their results and helping to create high-quality media content. Build Up content is updated daily, reaching around 120 new items each month. But Build Up is not only us. Build Up is a community, and we invite you to be part of it. By becoming a member, you can contribute uploading your own content and promoting your own news, events, or publications. Build Up will help you to reach a broader audience through our social media channels and newsletter. It is a pleasure to host today's webinar entitled Cities, Buildings, Skills, Energy Renovations in Historic Areas at Different Scales, which is organized by Cyprus Energy Agency, CEA. The webinar will provide an overview of the Cyprus Energy Agency's projects Hub-In, Violet, Upgrade, We Qualify, and Bricks of Skills that relate to various aspects of energy efficiency of historic urban fabrics. In today's agenda, Andreas Pastides, Communication Manager at Cyprus Energy Agency, will introduce the vision and activities of the agency. Marina Kyriakou, Architect and Urban Planning and Mitigation of Climate Change and Mobility Department at Cyprus Energy Agency, will present the Hub-In Horizon 2020 project that followed the SASHI project on the sustainable development of historic areas. Cristina Balocchi, Architectural Engineer at Energy Efficiency and Renewal Department at Cyprus Energy Agency, will present Violet Horizon 2020 project aiming to preserve traditional buildings through energy reduction. At this point, the agency will propose an interactive poll in this point. Cristina Balocchi will take the floor again, Architectural Engineer at Energy Efficiency and Renewal Department of Cyprus Energy Agency, to present the Upgrade Horizon 2020 project aiming to improve the readiness of Cyprus and Greece for energy efficiency deep renovations of school buildings. Finally, Soula Garra, a civil engineer and project manager at Energy Efficiency of Buildings Department at Cyprus Energy Agency, will present the We Qualify and Brick of Skills project aiming to improve skills and qualifications in the building workforce in Cyprus. Build Up audience is welcome to send us questions through the platform. These questions will be answered at the end of the presentations in a session with all the project presenters. I leave the floor now to our first speaker, Andreas Pastides, who will introduce the vision and activities of the agency. Thank you very much and enjoy.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar, and thank you to Build Up for this invitation. It is a pleasure to present this webinar within the framework, the thematic of this month for Build Up, which is the energy renovation on historic buildings. We'll start with a brief presentation of our agency, the Cyprus Energy Agency. So who we are. The Cyprus Energy Agency is an independent non-governmental non-profit organization that was founded in 2009 with the aim of contributing actively to the conservation of energy resources, the protection of the environment, and the improvement of the quality of life. So the establishment of the agency, as well as its first 3 years of operation, were co-founded by the European Commission through the program Intelligent Energy for Europe and by the Cyprus Union of Communities. Throughout the years, the Cyprus Energy Agency has participated in various EU and national projects that enabled its goals of promoting renewable energy sources and sustainable transport, improving the energy efficiency and contributing to the mitigation and adaptation to climate change, among many other things. Up to date, the Cyprus Energy Agency has participated in more than 70 EU national projects that cover a wide range of topics, including the energy efficiency. It has done so with multiple local, European, and international organizations contributing to innovation, research, and sustainable development. Sorry. So to come to a very brief conclusion, the energy efficiency is and has always been a core topic for the activities of the Cyprus Energy Agency, especially now with the European Green Deal, and that is also reflected through our roadmap up to 2030 for a just, inclusive, and climate resilient Cyprus that is governed by the principles of sustainability. This document is available on our website. Here is a link. We will share this presentation with you afterwards through the BuildUps website, so you'll be able to click on it and read it yourself. So according to our roadmap in the energy efficiency section, as you can see here, the best kind of energy is the one that is not wasted, and that is why we follow the EU's principle of energy efficiency first. We focus on energy renovations, energy standards and management, and green public procurement to achieve our goals. Currently, the Cyprus Energy Agency employs 15 people that are divided in 3 teams, 3 departments: the Climate Change and Environment Department, the Energy Efficiency and Renewables Department, and the Administration, Education, and External Communications Department that are under the management and the director, Mr. Savas Lachos. Together with me today, I have my colleagues Marina Kyriakou, Sula Kara, and Christina Palochi, as very well said during the introduction of this webinar. So to break down a little bit the agenda as well, during the first half of the webinar, we'll be focusing on the cities and buildings section. So Marina, yes, will present the Hubin project, that is the hubs of innovation and entrepreneurship for the transformation of historic urban areas, an ongoing Horizon 2020 project that aims to foster innovation and entrepreneurship in historic urban areas while preserving the unique identity in terms of cultural, natural, and social values. Then my colleague Christina will present the Violet project, preserve traditional buildings through energy reduction. That was a 2-phase Interreg Europe. It has already ended, but it was focusing, as you can see, on the traditional buildings by suggesting changes in policies and how to acquire a more sympathetic and more modern philosophy towards the historic and heritage buildings. And then on the next half of the webinar today, we'll be focusing on the skills, starting with the Upgrade project, upskilling professionals for deep energy efficiency renovations, a tool for better schools, an ongoing AOT-funded project that aims to improve the readiness of Cyprus and Greece for energy efficient deep renovation of school buildings, mainly through the development of and implementation of a training toolkit that is targeted to the building professionals. And then my colleague Sula Kara will present the outcomes of 2 already ended projects, the improved skills and qualifications in the building workforce in Cyprus, the We Qualify project, and the Bricks of Skills and Erasmus Plus project. But both of them had as main objective the education and training of building professionals, suggesting some techniques and some programs in order to upskill their skills. Before I give the floor to my colleague Marina for the presentation of the Hubin project, I would like to also highlight that the Cyprus Energy Agency participates in the European Climate Pact by pledging to become a net zero carbon by the end of this year. And within this framework, we're also advancing our buildings in the historic city of Nicosia. We have been able, by taking many actions and initiatives to advance the energy efficiency of the energy class, of our buildings from B+ to B and from B+ to A, respectively. And we're also planning within this year to convert our roof into a green roof that introduces, that puts together, nature-based solutions and renewables with photovoltaics. So that's all from my side. I now pass the floor to my colleague Marina for the Hubin presentation. Thank you.
Kalimera, good morning. So I'm going to do an overview of how the Hubin project contributes into the sustainable development of historic urban fabrics. The HABIN project stands for Hubs of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the Transformation of Historic Urban Areas, and it is funded by the Horizon 2020 framework. The HABIN project actually follows the project SUSHI, which stands for Sustainable Historic Districts. And I wanted to briefly mention it because it was the first project that the Cyprus Energy Agency has participated in that takes a holistic approach to addressing the common challenges of historic areas in Mediterranean countries. Within the framework of the SUSHI project, we have created an action plan for Nicosia, our capital city, and where the Cyprus Energy Agency is also based. And this action plan included actions to make the city an inclusive, accessible, green, and regenerated world city. This document was very useful for the initial stages of the HABIN project as well. The aim of HABIN is to transform and regenerate historic urban areas while preserving their unique cultural and social identity, as well as the environment. The consortium, of this project is composed by 8 cities that are in very different geographic contexts of Europe, and all of them have similar challenges in their historic urban areas that have to do with climate, energy, and also usability of the buildings. Almost all of the cities are represented by a local authority and an organization that shares expertise in technical fields like energy efficiency and other. And in our case, the Cyprus Energy Agency supports the municipality of Nicosia. The objectives of the project are to lead urban regeneration in a way that reverses trends of abandonment and neglect of local heritage, to create new sustainable opportunities for local traditional businesses, and to develop new creative skills and jobs. This is done by following some principles like cultural heritage is the engine for innovation. We use the model of quadruple helix for innovation and creativity in order to include all the necessary stakeholders in this effort. Of course, the sustainable development is the only way that we can guide our cities to evolve in the coming years, facing the current climate change and the impacts of other global problems in economy, etc. And of course, the cultural heritage is used to stimulate contemporary creation. The HABIN framework follows a participatory framework in order to be resilient also in terms of social innovation. The stages that we follow are to first set up in a pilot manner hubs of innovation and entrepreneurship in each of the cities that participates in the project. Then we establish an ecosystem of innovation and we create interconnections between the different cities who are working locally. And lastly, we create an ecosystem that it has the form of a network at the Europe-wide scale in order to share the knowledge. So you may wonder what we mean by hub of innovation. So here are the main characteristics. The hub can be a physical and or a digital space in the historic urban areas of cities where innovative practices are promoted and an entrepreneurial spirit is cultivated. Innovation can be social, economic, and technological. What makes these hubs of innovation relevant to today's topic of energy renovation in historic buildings is this emphasis on the local identity of the built environment and the heritage preservation, as well as the promotion of strategies and practices which mainstream sustainable development. For each hub of innovation, we map the practices and the characteristics of the city which relate to the 3 clusters that you see on the diagram: cultural and creative industries, resilient and human connected places, new lifestyles. So we aim to involve as many actors as possible because as I said before, the participatory methods are very crucial and essential in in the methodology and philosophy of the Habin project. As the scope of Habin is multidimensional and encompasses very like the tangible and the intangible aspects of heritage, and the focus is on innovation and entrepreneurship, I will dedicate the rest of my presentation on some useful resources that are available today from the project. All of them can be accessed on the website of the project, and they include tools and methodologies for co-creation between different stakeholders, database with best practices for urban regeneration, and of course, access to a network of professionals who share expertise in relevant fields such as service design, urban transformation, and social innovation. The first tool I wanted to briefly explain is the Geo tool, which is a web-based geographic information tool, and it aims to map the Habin places in each of the city of the project. So it supports the interpretation and perception of the existing cultural, social innovation, and entrepreneurship dynamics. I'm sorry. Here is an example of the Geo tool in Nicosia. This tool provides access to georeference data for the historic urban area of Nicosia. Here is an example of environmental assets of Nicosia. It's a mapping of the presence of PVs, solar panels, that are installed in the historic center. With the different colors, the yellow, green, and the red, it illustrates the intensity of the solar panels. So by showing this geographic distribution of renewable energy systems in the historic urban area, it can be very useful for planning and decision making regarding their energy renovations and overall strategy for the preservation of historic buildings. Another example here is from Slovenska Bistrica, our partners in Slovenia. The color coding represents the time periods of the heritage buildings, which again can be useful for prioritizing energy renovations in specific neighborhoods or specific streets. This Geo tool can be used by local authorities to make such information publicly available and engage other stakeholders in the preservation of a historic area. There is a Geo tool user guide that is available also on the website among the rest of the resources. Another tool that we have created within the project is an interactive atlas of heritage-led regeneration. It's a database of 80 different cases from historic urban areas that have been regenerated using entrepreneurship and innovation as drivers. This information has been collected through an extensive survey, and it was built to inspire with different initiatives that can contribute to the regeneration of cities around Europe. The pins that you see represent the initiatives, and you can browse through the initiatives in the atlas on the website by zooming in and zooming out. You can also browse through the different cases by filtering, for example, the type of heritage or the type of scale that you are interested. And here we see an example of what kind of information you can see for this good practices of sustainable revitalization of industrial heritage. For example, here on a building in Haarlem, in the Netherlands, the kind of information that you can see is its location, what type of heritage it is, the themes, for example, community action, energy transition, education, entertainment. And there is also a fact sheet on its governance, what kind of organization form, on the investment, if we have information of how much it costs, the type of financial resources that were used, and this kind of information. So it can be an inspiration on how energy renovations can also be seen in a very holistic way and integrated through a very creative use with local businesses and make it a building that it's also useful. So lastly, I wanted to share the fact that we have a toolkit available on our website, which shows different tools that a local authority or any kind of citywide initiative stakeholder can use. There are different stages. In our methodology, we have 4 stages. The first 2 are preliminary stages, and then the 3rd and 4th stage they follow an iterative process. So based on the context and the specific case you want to use it, you can try and test one of the tools that we use for Habin. And lastly, I wanted to invite you, if you are indeed representing a local authority or a citywide initiative, to join us in our Habin Alliance and get access to the network, to the knowledge that we share through the toolkit and the Habin Alliance that we will develop very soon, and be part of the exchange and the support that we offer in cities that they want to regenerate the historic urban areas of their cities. Thank you so much. So this project was focused on the scale of the city or a neighborhood. I'm going to pass to my colleague Christina, who is going to jump into the scale of the building with the Violet project. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Build Up, for the invitation. This presentation is dedicated to Violet, which is an Interreg Europe project that started in 2017 and officially closed last August. The project focused on the preservation of traditional and heritage buildings, the integration of energy efficiency and cultural heritage into policy planning, management, and monitoring, the endorsement of a building culture sympathetic to modern requirements of energy use and carbon emissions, and the impact on sustainable development, growth, and preservation of European cultural heritage. The project objectives and outputs included the establishment of a community of practices, which required the grouping of regional stakeholders following a multi-sector approach and stakeholder involvement in all phases of the project implementation. During the project, the consortium organized inter-regional exchange events, including some study visits, and carried out joint SWOT analysis for the identification of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats regarding the case of each country. In addition, the good practices were identified at the regional level in synergy with the community of practices, and each partner developed an action plan in cooperation with the community of practices, again, defining concrete actions to improve the policy for traditional buildings. Cyprus's plan included 4 main actions. First, the recommendations for the EU-level recast energy performance of buildings, the issuance of energy performance certificates for heritage buildings in Cyprus, the issuance of a guidebook for the energy upgrade of such buildings, and a series of seminars for professional training. The first action focused on providing recommendations for the amendment of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive on a national level. And as a result of the Violet's project's activities in Cyprus, the regulations for the energy efficiency of buildings now refers directly to the energy performance of heritage buildings. More specifically, these changes achieved that buildings that have been declared as listed or as ancient monuments need to have an energy performance certificate, and that they can be exempted from the minimum energy efficiency requirements only if their owners present adequate documentation to the authorities. Regarding the legislation for the energy efficiency of heritage buildings in Cyprus, the non-alteration of the building's character remains the main issue. However, modern building solutions and new construction systems enable actions for improved energy efficiency and indoor condition in preserved buildings, enhancing their use and therefore their preservation. The aim is to give the opportunity and indirect incentives to find new solutions and projects by increasing know-how in this area. Each building should have been evaluated as unique, as in most of the cases, no standardized solutions could be applied. The second action of the Cyprus plan was the issuance of energy performance certificates for a number of heritage buildings. The buildings were selected based on some criteria. For example, that they are located in all climatic zones of Cyprus, they are public and private, a variety of sizes. Some of them are under protection status. Some of them have implemented energy upgrade measures, and the buildings have a variation in construction techniques. The selected buildings were then divided into three main categories. Residences, where no energy efficiency measures were implemented. Residences with energy efficiency measures implemented, and restored not residential buildings. Here you can see two examples of an energy performance certificate in two different buildings in Cyprus. And on the tables, some experimentation regarding the improvement of the energy efficiency and how it affects the energy consumption of each building was carried out. The third action was the issuance of a guidebook for the energy upgrade of heritage buildings, which was published in Greek and was disseminated to different stakeholders, engineers, and public authorities. The guidebook provides guidelines for upgrading the energy efficiency of heritage buildings, as well as improving the indoor comfort conditions. These guidelines aim at actions and measures that will not alter the building's character. Although it's not a technical guide, it can be used in parallel with other technical guides. It provides information on the energy performance of heritage buildings in the wider European context, on the legislation and policies regarding the energy efficiency in the local context. It also provides ways to evaluate heritage buildings and the solutions to be implemented for the energy upgrade, and to develop a plan for the restoration, while it also provides information on the construction features of heritage buildings. The fourth action of the Cyprus plan are the interdisciplinary seminars for professional training, a series of educational seminars for professionals on the topic of energy efficiency of heritage buildings, with a certification award organized in Cyprus. The target was the preservation of heritage buildings and upgrade measures to reach modern standards. The material delivered through the pilot project was used as the basis of the training and for closing the gap between energy efficiency and cultural heritage. In 2021, the consortium submitted a proposal to continue the project for further improving regional development of policies and better face the net zero transmission. The project objectives for the last year of the project were similar to the ones mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, but focused on the indirect impact of COVID-19 on heritage buildings and their users. The pilot 2 achievements include that CEA is taking part in the consultations for the investment plan for the new cohesion policy in Cyprus. The program will include a policy objective on energy and policy objective 5, a Europe closer to citizens. And CEA will focus on sustainable historical buildings and traditional settlements. Currently in Cyprus, there are 2 funding schemes from which owners can benefit in order to upgrade heritage buildings. The building could be eligible either if they are located close to the borderline or if they are residential units. And to conclude, some of the overall achievements of the Violet project were the inclusion of Violet and its aspirations in the national long-term renovation strategy for the energy upgrade of the existing building stock. The prevention sector and antiquities department adopted a new approach to the examination of applications for restoration works, which include measures to increase energy performance and all the things that we have been mentioned in the previous slides. Thank you. Now we're going to have a quick interactive poll in order to find out the audience's experience with heritage buildings or professional skills in general.
Thank you very much, Andreas, Marina, Cristina, for this insight on the first part of the difficulties of the building stock of heritage building proposed. As you say, we're gonna go to the poll. Let's change and propose in the screen those questions that you're interested in our audience to answer. Okay, so what is your professional field? Let's select one. You can touch directly on screen. We can go to the second one now. I believe there are already some time to answer. Let's go to question 2. Okay, so many of our audience are from architectural and design. That's nice. And when of other, it will be interesting to see where are they from. You can put it in our question part, so you can let us know where are you from. What is your field of domain? It will be really interesting for our panelists. Okay, question 2. They ask if you have been involved in energy renovation projects and what kind, heritage building areas, non-heritage building, or you have not been involved in energy renovation. Let's give some time more. Let's go to the answers. I believe we have almost all of them now. Okay, so 50% in non-heritage buildings. Very interesting. Perhaps it's the opportunity to get into them. There is a big field of action there. As we are seeing with the Cyprus Energy Agency. Let's go to question 3. What are the major barriers in implementing energy renovations under your advice? Legislation restrictions, financing or incentives, lack of knowledge or lack of skills, technical issues, or you think there are not really barriers? Let's see if we have some answers now. Let's see what are the major barriers that you think that is avoiding to implement. So mainly financing and incentives, that's for sure. Second, lack of knowledge or lack of skills. We're in the year of skills, and also some of the projects that are coming afterwards, they are proposing to bridge this gap. And others are very optimistic. They say there are no barriers. Again, in the question box, you can really further explain what you think there are these no barriers. It will be very interesting for us to know. And let's go to the final question, to the Q4. It says, what do you think that successful energy renovations require? Comprehensive policy, so for heritage, residential, commercial, etc. Knowledge of the main principles of energy efficiency. This is to say energy efficiency strategies from a technical point of view or a typology point of view. Design for reducing energy losses in energy renovations. Again, these strategies and knowing the typology. Skill, again, the point of skill, skilled blue-collar workers, for example, for the application of the insulation or any other. Let's give some time. Let's see the answers. I believe you all have time to give your advice here. Okay, so majority you think that is the knowledge of the main principles of energy efficiency. It makes sense because many of you are architects. So let's continue hearing again to Cristina Palocchi, that will take the floor now afterwards with Soula Carra, and they will get into the upskilling of professionals, some of the points that you have highlighted as important for this kind of building typology. Thank you very much. Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. As we have seen, most of the gaps are in knowledge and skills of professionals, either referring to blue-collar or white-collar professionals. The next project to be presented is Upgrade, Upskilling Professionals for Deep Energy Efficiency Renovations, a school for better schools, a tool for better schools, sorry. The project consortium is the National Kapodistrian University of Athens, the Hellenic Passive House Institute, the Cyprus Energy Agency, and Daddy Ware from Germany. The project started its activities in October 2021 and will last until the end of 2023. The project aims to improve the readiness of Cyprus and Greece for energy efficient deep renovation of school buildings, to develop and implement a total training toolkit, to upskill building professionals involved in all phases of energy renovation processes, to minimize the energy performance gap between the design and construction phase, to promote a holistic design approach for reducing construction, operation and maintenance costs, to increase the local capacity for planning and management to support transformative energy renovations, to improve thermal comfort, health, and indoor environmental quality, and to raise general public awareness. The target groups for upgrades activities are mainly blue and white collar professionals of the building industry in Cyprus and Greece. the public authorities, networks of construction professionals, local civil society actors, and the renewable energy sources industry. While the project addresses the need to upgrade EU's building stock, the need to upskill the construction workforce, the requirements of the EU for the energy efficiency and reduction of CO2 emissions, and the increasing demand for sustainable construction solutions. The project activities include data collection and evaluation, definition and clustering of the target groups, the development of a total training toolkit, exploitation plan of developed training material, and dissemination and awareness. More specifically, for the project purposes for data collection and evaluation, a technical survey for building professional was carried out with more than 500 participants, and about 20 existing EPCs were evaluated. In addition, the partners organized study visits and a series of train the trainer courses in Germany. And for the identification of gaps and barriers in building renovations, was examined through a targeted survey to professionals of the built environment to upgrade the quality of building stock and mitigate climate change. The results of the technical survey were published in a scientific paper, and the highlights will be presented in the next slides. Firstly, the most important gap in energy efficiency policies. For Greece, the 34% of the participants answered that the poor national legislative framework was the reason. While in Cyprus, the four main answers were again the poor overall ambition of the European policies, no monitoring of the implementation of the legislation, inadequate renewable energy legislation, and lack of voluntary national deep energy renovation standards for renovating existing buildings. Regarding the prominent barriers for financing building energy renovations, in Greece and in Cyprus, the participants answered that it was mainly due to the lack of funds or access to finance, so for financial incentives, and high capital cost and financial risk for such renovations. Moreover, regarding the difficulties that were hard to overcome during deep energy renovations, there were mainly technical issues in the construction phase and as well as in the design phase, while in Cyprus, the legislation restrictions and the lack of skilled professionals were the main issues. Lastly, the drivers that may boost the deep energy renovation projects are the improved financing solutions, consultancy and trainings, upgrading the skills of professionals, and raising society's awareness on the importance of energy renovations. An additional activity was the evaluation of the energy performance certificates for a comparative assessment with on-site visits and the case study buildings in order to detect deficiencies and performance gaps for each case. In order to carry out this activity, a collection of construction and technical data was carried out, a comparison of the EPC estimated energy consumption with the actual energy consumption based on the energy peaks, and the observation of the deficiencies performance gap. It's important to keep in mind that during the pandemic, the estimated and actual consumption was highly affected by the use of the buildings during that time. Here are some pictures from the study visits of the partners in Germany. These are some school buildings that are certified passive house buildings. In addition, the partners had the trainer course at the Passive House Institute in Germany. Regarding the project's outcomes, as mentioned before, the development, application, and dissemination of a total training toolkit will target building professionals to minimize the energy performance gap between the design and construction phase, and will be focused on public school buildings in Cyprus and Greece. Although it's focused on school buildings, this toolkit will be also applicable for energy renovation in various types of buildings. The next step of the project is to implement the total training toolkit through a series of training courses. In total, there will be 18 training courses in Greece and Cyprus, as well as 4 national workshops. These are the communication channels of the project, where you can visit and learn about the project's activities and outcomes and get to know the project. And that's all for the upgrade project. And now we can move on to my colleague Sula for the We Qualify and Bricks of Skills projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning from me as well. Thank you very much, Britta, for the invitation. As we already mentioned, there is a need to tackle the barriers in the construction, such as the lack of sufficient, as the lack of sufficient number of skilled workforces for the implementation of measures relating to the construction of energy efficient buildings, and the lack of appropriate training programs for the training of the workforce. The Cyprus Energy Agency was participated as a coordinator, as a partner in 2 European programs related to upgrading skills of blue-collar sector for the implementation of measures of energy efficiency in buildings. There isn't. Okay. Sorry. The We Qualify project improves skills and qualifications in the building workforce in Cyprus. It's an EU co-funded project through the Intelligent Energy Europe program under the European Initiative Build Up Skills. The We Qualify project has emerged between the 3 nominations for the most successful European project for the year 2016 in the public domain category, for the promotion of clean, safe, and efficient energy in Europe in the framework of the European Sustainable Energy Week. The lead partner of the project was the Cyprus Energy Agency. Partners were from the public sector, industry sector, and also from associations of engineers. The main aim of the We Qualify project was to assist the construction sector in Cyprus to overcome the skill gap of the workforce relating to the construction of energy efficient buildings, but also to contribute to the promotion of renewable energy technologies. One of the main actions of the project was the 5 pilot training programs for technicians, the development of 3 new skills training materials, training of 125 technicians, and also certifications of 100 technicians to be awarded. The main pilot training programs were organized following the development of the appropriate training material, which are addressed towards technical installers for the following subjects: placement of thermal insulation, installation of thermal paints and exterior sunshades, installation and maintenance of biomass heating. The project We Qualified has responded to the needs of the Cyprus construction sector for qualified trained installers, and has given the opportunity to the participants to attend specialized and high quality training programs. Also, the training programs were organized by the We Qualify consortium and they have achieved a wide recognition of their professional competencies and skills, competitive advantage, and recognition in their field work. A national study commitment was established in order to consult and support, There is a problem with my presentation. Sorry for this. Okay, nope. Okay. Can I have support, please? Thank you. A national study committee was established in order to consult. Can I have a support, please, from the backup? No. Okay. My presentation is stuck with monitoring.
Sola, we will take the ourselves the controls. Just say next slide. Okay, thank you.
Yes, can we go to the slides, 2 slides before, if I'm not mistaken? And the next slide, please. The next slide. The next. The next, please. Here, thank you very much. Sorry for this. A national study committee was established in order to consult and support the implementation of the training programs, as well as to act as a link among the key stakeholders, the trainees, and the decision makers. The next, please. A dedicated questionnaire was created, which has distributed to the trainees at the end of training of each training program. A large proportion of the respondents indicate that the We-Qualify project has improved their knowledge and skills. The majority also acquire certificate will give them a competitive advantage in their work. A number of them suggested to increase the hours of practical training, but the majority were very satisfied with the program overall. Next, please. Another project that the SEA has participated regarding the skills is the Bricks of Skills, a partnership funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union that brought together partners from 6 countries to develop bricks of learning to enable learners across Europe to gain knowledge, skills, and competencies in the area of energy efficiency in the construction industry. Bricks of Skills is a metaphor convening the idea that learners build blocks by blocks their knowledge, skills, and competences with regards to the new issues of the construction sector. These bricks in the shape of learning units have been developed to facilitate the delivery of the European credit system for vocational education and training ECBET model, and to facilitate the gaining of comparable knowledge and competences across Europe. Next, please. The project was run from 2018 to 2021. The project partners worked towards the aims and objectives of the project with the lead partner, West College, Scotland. Next, please. Thank you very much. The Bricks of Skills project is leading the way in developing learning pathways that are designed in accordance with the ECBET model. Next. The core objective of Bricks of Skills was the development of flexible learning pathways focused on energy efficiency, then design pathways to help learners develop the skills they need to contribute to the creation of innovative energy solutions for Europe, and also design the facilitate the free movement of construction professionals in the EU. And learning pathways compromise units of learning has been transferable and be applicable to different qualifications. The aim of this is to develop cross-cutting understanding of the different trends in the construction sector. Next, please. The main actions of the project, it was the design of units of learning outputs of energy skills, the guidelines and tools for energy skills based on the units of learning, the first learning activity about train the trainers, and the second activity train the learners about the energy efficiency skills. Next, please. The first year, it was developed and designed the units of learning outcomes focused on energy skills and based on ECVET model. The set of these learning outputs was filled and cover all the knowledge, skills, and competencies regarding the ECVET model that allows learners to accumulate and transfer and use their learning in units as these units are achieved. It offers a framework for making learners more mobile and qualifications more portable, laying down principles and technical specifications and making use of existing national legislation and regulations. It applies to vocational education and training qualifications at all levels of the European qualifications framework. Next, please. The first training about the trainers was hosted in France, a 3-day event. The trainees from each partner received information and education on the project goals, the methodology that the training program of the project will be based on, and also at the last day they had practical training on external thermal installation, enriching their knowledge and sharing best practices on thermal installations. Next, please. The second learning activity was a work session to experiment with one of the learning units produced by the partnership. In Cyprus, there was a 3-day educational workshop of the learners entitled Energy Efficiency Built-in Envelope. During the workshop, 11 learners received education on energy efficiency regulations, heat transfer, thermal insulation materials, installation of thermal insulation, and health and safety. This workshop was a pilot workshop. And at the last day, they received practical training on external thermal installation and had an evaluation test as well. All the participants passed exams with a mean of 75%. Next, please. The impact that the project had on the target groups, meeting professionals and trainees and learners. The short term was a benefit from training materials matching their needs, the knowledge concerning energy efficiency, and long term they have increased productivity and competitiveness, and also able to define an international strategy. Next, please. For the trainers, for the short-term impact, will benefit from training materials that match their needs as well. And also they have the opportunity to have open innovative training material. On long term, the trainers will benefit from training materials that will result in increase the competitiveness and attractiveness, and also will be able to validate skills acquired abroad. Next, please. The conclusions for both projects is that education and lifelong learning and the creation of certification schemes for craftsmen's qualifications provide quality assurance in the construction and of buildings. The regulation of occupations by law must be handled with care and implemented where there is an imperative public interest. There is a necessity of a common reference point for the whole effort of the system of vocational qualifications. Also, there is a need for updating or creating new qualification standards. And last but not least, need for cooperation of all stakeholders in order to provide appropriate reference framework. Even though the heritage buildings have additional special methodologies regarding the implementation of the energy efficiency measures, having a concrete methodology and training material can support the blue collar for upgrading their skills in this field. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the delayed presentation.
Not a problem, Sola. Thank you so much. We have questions, but I think it's a little bit too late. So perhaps we can have in the future another webinar, because we have really a long list of questions of these very, very interesting projects, because they have not only propose strategies, but also tools. And you know, tools are very much important in these days. Yes, I'm saying they are giving me permission to give you some questions. I will say in general, because it's something that while listening to you, for sure, these proposals are mainly for Cyprus and Greece. That is your field of action and your consortium. But something that we are trying to do in Europe is increase our renovation rate, right? Is very, very low, and also in historic buildings are perhaps one of the most affected. How replicable are your proposals in terms of toolkits, in terms of geo tools? Marina, Cristina, Soula, follow perhaps Soula, it's more into skills, but Marina, Cristina, how replicable are your proposals in the rest of Europe?
Okay, I'll go first. Since the hubbing project that I have presented is mostly, well, it's focused on the city level. So indeed, every city is very different. And the fact that we are focusing on historic urban areas, it creates a list of similarities and a list of differences between the cities, because all of them have different histories indeed, but also different kinds of build fabric, different materials, let's say, and different kinds of urban spaces, open spaces, public spaces. Also natural elements in the city are different. So what we do in the methodology of Habin, the first stage of the project is to identify and understand the current situation. So by doing that in a synchronous manner between the different cities, as it is a project of collaboration and exchange, we manage to create some interconnections between the cities. So on the one hand, we work locally, but on the other hand, we try to create lines between the different projects, and maybe also sometimes we work in pairs with cities that have similar challenges, in order to make sure that what we create in our toolkit and in our list of resources is something that another city that faces similar challenges in the historic urban area can get inspiration from, but not only get inspiration, but also replicate the similar process by following the steps. So it's very important, the communication of the strategy and the different steps, so that the guidelines and the manuals that we create have a level of liberty and flexibility in what suits every city, but at the same time, there's a structure into it that can lead someone to an effective impact.
Cristina, what about Violet?
Yeah, and in the building level, and as Marina mentioned, in the city level, there needs to be flexibility. So as mentioned in the Violet's presentation, each building should be evaluated and treated as unique. Therefore, you take all the toolkits, the measures, the proposed measures, and every designer, engineer should choose what's applicable in each case. In historic heritage buildings, the main factor should be the preservation of the building's character, the enhancement of its uniqueness, let's say. So each professional should be very delicate on what to propose, what to do on a building. But there are things that can be done, and that's what Violet examined regarding the insulation. It could be on the inside if it affects the elevations of the buildings. For example, the windows could be improved, but similar to the ones the building had before. So there are things to do, but we have to keep that the character of the building, it's the most important, and we have to keep it as much as possible to its initial look and image. I think that's all.
Yeah, in fact, you talk about identity just in the first slide. That I think is one of the most important words for preservation, right, of historic buildings. I will continue with you because you were talking about recommendations for EPBD. Under your experience working with heritage buildings in all these projects, do you think heritage buildings are well addressed in the current European regulations?
The one thing that we mentioned in Violet's presentation is that they should be included in the regulation. They should be renovated in order to meet some energy efficiency standards, because it's more difficult to energy renovate a heritage building than a conventional building. So that's why we try to propose, okay, include them in the legislation, but give some flexibility on the standard we need to reach. So it needs to be a more careful approach regarding this type of buildings.
Perfect. And let's go to the second part where you address the skills. Let's go to Sola, that she presents. We qualify and break off skills to very impressive projects to try to upgrade or upscale what do we have right now in terms of workforce. Did the pilot training of both projects have any continuity after the completion of the projects?
Thank you for the question. In Cyprus, after the completion of Bricks of Skills, because we have the pilot trainings for the blue collar, I was interested to continue in Cyprus as a seminar through our educational center in Cyprus Energy Agency. And with the cooperation of another training center, we have already implemented the first training about energy efficiency and thermal insulation for blue collar. And there was an interest also for white collar. And in the next year, we're going to have a training for engineers regarding energy efficiency. And we can see that the toolkit that was developed through the Bricks of Skills and the We Qualify has a continuity in Cyprus. It wasn't so easy to gather engineers and craftsmen from the construction industry due to their lack of time or lack of interest. But we can see that after with the Green Deal and the needs that we need to tackle for the climate change, they had more interested to participate in that kind of training.
Perfect. Let's finish here. Thank you very much to the Cyprus Energy Agency for accepting our invitation first, and all the very inspiring speakers that has been with us today here. Thank you very much for the 3 very inspiring projects in how to attain energy efficiency in preserved and heritage buildings, and to demonstrate the difficulties of this specific building stock proposed, as well as the positive impact that can come of preserving it, and the 2 projects presented on skills. We are in the year of skills 2023, and what is missing to really improve this building stock, and proposing. Moreover, what is more interesting is proposing solutions on how to upskill this workforce. Not to forget our audience, was very interesting that they put the emphasis in the needs for financing and for upskilling. So they really know what is missing out there. It's not something that we have to say, it's something that is real. Thank you so much for showing us what you're doing in Greece and Cyprus, and how we can implement it in the rest of Europe. Good note taken here in Belgium for many of the things I have seen today. And hope to meet in the future and have you again in Build Up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.